Good morning, guys. Hope you guys are well. Welcome back to this vlog. If you're new here, I'm Yummy Mommy, and thank you for clicking on this video. Thank you for watching. Before you go any further, please subscribe because I'm confident that you're going to want to watch more videos. So please subscribe to my channel. Today's video is very, very special to me. From the title, I think you already know what I'm going to talk about. I am headed to a rehab center on Kiambu Road, which is a rehab center that my mother runs, and I'll give you a bit more details about that. But yeah, I'm feeling really excited, but also really nervous because these kinds of conversations are never easy. It's always very tough for the people who are speaking about them, tough for the people who are engaging with them, and tough especially for their families and their friends. And it's something that I know and I personally have experienced. There are more, actually, many people in my family who have suffered from addiction, and so it's a topic that's very, very close to me. So I'm really looking forward to starting that conversation here. And I had spoken a little bit about this on my Instagram, but then a lot of people were like, yeah, please make a video about it. And so I thought, let me do it. So right now I am headed to the rehab center. I am at my best friend's place, Barbara. I'm picking her up because she wanted to come along, and I thought it would be helpful as well to have somebody who can capture some footage. So I'm waiting for her in the car, and then we shall head there. I'll give you more details when I get there, so come along, and I hope you enjoy this video, and I hope you learn something, and I hope it encourages or touches or inspires somebody. Yeah, okay, bye. Hi guys, so we are now at Teen Challenge. I've already shown you what the outside looks like, and now we are with my mom, who, as I mentioned, she is the executive director, right?
Yes, Teen
Challenge, exactly. So I just thought we'd start off by just hearing from her what Teen Challenge is about and what you do, and how you even got into this work. So the first thing that I know many people have a question about is why Teen Challenge? Is it for teens? Why Teen Challenge?
It's not just for teens. It's focused actually in most countries on adults.
Okay.
But we do have a teen focus, a prevention arm, where we go out to schools, to colleges and other places to help teenagers come free or not go into the line of addiction.
Okay, so you mentioned 3 centers. So
there's the Kiambu Men's Center, where we are sitting right now. There's the Women's Center, Kiambu, and there's also the Nakuru Teen Center.
Okay, so the Nakuru is also for men.
It's also for men.
Okay, so how did you get, I know because she's my mom, so I know how she got into it, but maybe you can just explain to guys, how did you get into Teen Challenge? Like, what made you want to, get involved in this kind of work? Yeah.
Well, to start off with, my husband struggled in addiction for many years.
That's my dad.
Yeah, and that had its repercussions, especially on the children, your siblings, and especially on our third born. And she started to struggle with addiction from about 16, 17 years old. And for many years we wondered, I wondered how can I help her? Because no simple talk, no beating, no discipline, nothing.
No cutting her hair,
nothing. Yes, nothing helped. Yeah. Until at one time, I realized, okay, this may need to be a longer time, away, like systematically putting her away from what she's addicted to. At the time, I knew it was marijuana. And then, finding out, okay, where do I take her? And realizing that in Kenya, there was no place where it was just women.
Exactly.
And, I remember the pain when I had to check her into a rehab where there were 25 men.
Yes.
She was the only lady.
I remember.
And although there was security, how a mother feels, but I just felt I had no choice. But I think right there was when the burden was born in my heart. And after that, I just remember starting to explore, okay, how does this work? What really goes on in a rehab? And starting to feel restless at the kind of desperation I saw people like go into a rehab and soon after they leave, go into the same cycle and never really find freedom. So that's where even the connection with Teen Challenge came. And then the founders or the missionary couple who started Teen Challenge were looking for someone and had been looking for someone since they started about 10 years ago, for someone to start the women's center, because whereas it was very easy to do the men, there are not many examples. Even the government, Mathare Hospital struggled with the women's focus.
Why is that the case? Why is there so many?
I think women have special needs that you need to take account of. It's not a cut and paste from a men's center to how you do a women's center. Women have more needs. They need more care because you may know that addiction hits women a lot more severely than it does men. So just that whole patience to work with the unique model that you need to design for women, gives many people a challenge.
Is it almost like society doesn't take it as seriously when a woman is in addiction vis-a-vis when a man is in addiction, because it's like, she's just a woman, kind of thing?
Yeah, I think there's an aspect of that. And an aspect of, women are usually so caught up with so many things. Like a woman will be a mother in a home. Where does she leave her children when she's coming away? And then just the fact that there are not as many, visibly, women in addiction as men. And people sort of think women will come around. They have social networks that somehow get them by. And then men, are taken very seriously by their families. If this one doesn't make it, where's the breadwinner in this home? Where's, so I think there's that aspect of downplaying addiction in women.
Which is so sad.
Which is sad.
There's something which you mentioned about, there seems to be this cycle of somebody will go to rehab, they go there for the 3 months, the 5 months, whatever, then they leave, then it's just a few months and they go back in. Is addiction like a lifelong sentence? Like from an addict to me, I'll just always be an addict. Like even if I recover, I'll just always be an addict.
No, I want to say a resounding no.
Okay.
We have found that, in fact, around the world, Teen Challenge has a statistic of 83% of those who go through the program never go back to addiction.
Oh, wow.
And that's to tell you that, once an addict is not always an addict. You can come free. It is learned behavior. You are not born, craving this thing. There has never been there's never been evidence that there's genetic, hand-down. Yes, there is definitely behavioral patterning. So that a father or mother who has a child who is in addiction, it's been found that they will be about 6 times more likely to become an addict than one who has not been brought up in that environment. But the fact is, there are many other things that cause people to be vulnerable. But it's a behavioral thing that can be broken.
But what makes somebody an addict? Like, there are people we go out drinking. Like I drink, I drink.
Yes.
Okay. But like I drink, but like socially, like I can go out with Zach and we can have a drink. And there are people who also do the same thing, but then they end up going overboard. And is there like a characteristics that make somebody more predisposed to?
Well, there are people who have said, okay, there are all these things that make you more vulnerable, like difficulty in childhood, trauma, things like, where there's the culture endorses, so that it makes it easier for you to have a pattern of, say, like drinking alcohol. But let me tell you what can push someone who is an ordinary social drinker into that addiction. Things happen, life happens.
Life happens.
And that brokenness, that pain that can come as a result of failure, of death of a relative, of bankruptcy, of rejection, of anything that brings a void inside will cause someone to look for something that will help that place, will get you more comfortable, get you through that difficult time. And if a pattern is developed, because addiction doesn't happen overnight. We talk of 4 stages of addiction. The first one is just the experimental stage where you enjoy it, you realize, this thing, yes, makes me feel good, you know, it makes me feel like 6 feet tall, you know, and you know, the pain that's inside, wow, I actually don't even have those thoughts.
Yeah, exactly.
But then it quickly goes to the social stage, which is where you will do it, but you will have rules around it. You will not drink during the time when you should be working. You will not drink with certain people. You will not do it, say, on Sunday. This is your day away. But quickly, those life-happening situations can tip you into what we call the preoccupation stage, where it then becomes the center of life. And all your boundaries are broken, you begin to crave it. There's pain associated with wanting to leave it. There's a sense in which there's
like someone says, oh, maybe you should give up alcohol. Like, no, how?
And actually we do have like a four sentence, you know, a four questions, you know, approach where, you know, do you get angry when you're criticized? You know, do you get annoyed at people talking about you're doing it? You know, do you feel guilty? Do you need an eye opener? You know, do you start to need to do it to feel normal? You know, and that then is the final stage of full-blown addiction, where you cannot do without it, and there's chemical dependence. You know, you asked about, you know, is it a lifelong thing? And people have this thing of, is it a disease like diabetes or something?
Because the government says that it's a disease, right?
Well, yes, that there is a definition for addiction, that it's a chronic, you know, brain disease that is involuntary and that is often fatal. But we refute all that in the sense that yes, it can become that, but it doesn't start as a disease. It starts as a choice. A choice.
Wow, that's so powerful.
Yes, it starts as a choice, and that becomes a habit that is then leads to that addiction, where this thing becomes the center of you. And we see people come free. People come
who have been in addiction for like 20 years, cocaine or something,
to heroin even,
and they
to
come out
alcohol,
of it.
and they truly come free. Yes.
Okay, Mom, last question. Do you like your job?
I love it!
Yeah?
I love it. Every day is so inspiring to see the transformation that happens from people who are helpless, who are not helpless but hopeless. Many of them confess that there are times when they want to, you know, to end it, you know, no purpose to life, you know, like a cycle of defeat and destruction, and then they come free and life comes alive. And they're doing something with their lives, they're affecting others, helping others to come free. Oh my, there is nothing that can replace that sense of fulfillment.
I can imagine.
And just to know I'm doing what God has put me here to do, in this earth to do. To see people transformed for life and eternity. Yes.
Thanks so much for the questions. And if you guys have any other questions about Teen Challenge or about addiction, you can just leave them in the comments down below and we will respond. So we've just left the men's center. We are now going to the women's center, which is literally like not 10 meters, like a kilometer away maybe. Is it a kilometer? Yeah, yes. Like about a kilometer away. But I'm just feeling so like, wow. We were just saying with Barbara, who is holding the camera right now,
hello,
that we don't really know people who have like been deep in addiction and then managed to get out of it. So it's so encouraging to like hear someone's story. I wanted us to go and speak to people who are still in the program. So for them, they don't know now what life is beyond the addiction and beyond, you know, leaving now the rehab center. So I want us to go and just speak to maybe a couple of them and just see what life is like for them and what they're struggling with and, you know, what they hope for the future. So let's go there. is Joy. Joy is the what are you, Joy?
Program director at the Women's Center.
At the Women's Center, yeah. So as my mom mentioned, there's the Men's Center, there's the Women's Center, and then there's the Men's Center in Nakuru. So Joy heads the Women's Center here, and I just wanted her to tell us a little bit about what that is like. When we were speaking with my mom, she said that when a woman comes to the rehab center, she has more needs, she has more, there's like a lot more required to take care of her as opposed to the men. What are some of those things? Like, what is different?
Really, so much difference is like emotional. Women are so wanting. You need to be there when they're crying, when they want to express themselves. You need to listen. They want to do new makeup since they were not doing. They want to start making their hair. They were not doing. So those are the most.
Women are expensive everywhere.
So much. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay, and then there's of course hygiene concerns and all that. And what would you say is the most challenging thing about just being with the students, interacting with them every day? What's the difficult part about that?
It's when one girl says she wants to go. She wants to quit the program.
It's
really
Rangu said the same thing.
Yeah, it is for every one of us.
Yeah.
Because you see how you've worked with them at maybe 6 months, and someone says, no, I don't want this anymore.
Yeah.
I want to go.
What reason do they usually give? That they feel
I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm okay. I can't drink anymore. I can be responsible now. Those are most of them.
Okay. And the Teen Challenge program, by the way, is 1 year. It's a 1 year program. So most other rehabs, you'll see they are 3 months and what. But the 1 year, why is it 1 year? 1 year is a long time. Why is it 1 year?
Because you see, like 3 months, we just deal with the physical. But there's a root cause why someone got to addiction. So us necessarily why we have 1 year, it's because we want to really deal with the root cause why someone got to addiction.
Yeah, and that's probably maybe why in other rehabs you find that somebody leaves after 3 months, then they relapse. Exactly, because like, okay, my body is fine, but you go back out in the real life and then
because you didn't deal with the first problem.
Okay. And so how do most of the girls, do they come alone or are they brought by people?
Most of them are brought by their parents or guardians. Yeah, and there are some that come from the streets.
Okay, and you're doing the Lord's work.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you. We're gonna go and speak with some of the students and just see what how they've experienced in challenge and what it is. I mean, how they are progressing basically. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I am sad and so
Hi Dora. Hi. You guys are always asking about my sister and where my sister is and why she's not really in many of my photos. So here she is. Welcome. I think we kind of look alike, but like I'm the fatter. No, well, like I think we're the same level of pretty, kind of, right? Yeah, but I'm slightly fatter. Yes, exactly. So my sister is a student at Teen Challenge Kenya, the Women's Center, right?
Yes.
How long have you been here?
I'm in my 3rd month. I came last year in
November.
End of November.
Yeah, exactly. So I just thought it would be really nice for her to share her story with us. Of course, I asked her and she's comfortable. She's okay to share, because ultimately all we want is for people to be encouraged and inspired by your story. Yeah. Obviously, I know her story, but I'll ask her some questions so she can be able to explain to you guys, and you can maybe learn a little bit more about addiction and how it manifests, and just like where her life is now, which is at a place of victory, which is good. Exactly. So walk us through how you got into addiction.
Okay. So basically I started experimenting when I was... An addiction always starts with experimenting.
Yeah.
Nobody just wakes up and they're like, oh,
I would like to get addicted
or when
today.
I grow up, I want to be an addict. Please sign me up.
Yeah.
No. So I was experimenting, and I don't know about how the government or the laws are right now. I know you're supposed to ask for ID. I'm 17 and no one ever used to ask me for ID.
That was when you were at St. Austin's, right?
Yeah. I was actually in my last year. I was doing my O levels. I was in year 11. And I started drinking. I remember I never even used to need to be with friends to drink. I used to drink alone.
Yeah.
So I actually had a collection in my room.
You did?
Yeah, of bottles.
Oh, that's news to me.
Like in a drawer. Yeah. And actually I was busted, but I can't remember. I don't think the punishment was dire enough to cause any change. I mean, I remember I used to be quite rebellious. I mean,
she was. I mean, very headstrong. You are extremely headstrong.
yeah, being very headstrong and feeling like I want to make my own decisions. If you know Dad, I mean, you know.
I don't know him. Yeah, he's familiar. He seems familiar to me.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he used to enforce many rules.
Yeah.
And for me, I just felt like you can't tell me. I mean, I'm my own person. I'll do my own thing. I'll do what I want, when I want, how I want. Yeah. So
How did that work out?
not very good.
Okay.
Teen challenge.
Yeah. So how did that now manifest from like just drinking to where you got to now joining Teen Challenge?
Really, it was a downward spiral from going from drinking. Then I started experimenting with cigarettes. And the thing with addiction is you build what they call a tolerance. So what you used to start taking doesn't give you the same high after a while. I mean, you can start the first time you take 3 shots and your night is done. But then with time, you take that same amount and it's sort of like
juice.
Yeah, it's not what it used to be like. So I needed more of the same thing. And it got to a point where I realized alcohol wasn't doing it for me because I just wanted a different type of high, I guess. I started smoking weed. I began to hang out with people who used to smoke weed and know where it's found. I remember actually the first time I smoked weed. I don't think Mom knows this.
God.
Is she going to watch this?
Even I don't. So tell me.
It was in a church camp. I remember,
A church camp.
Yeah.
A church camp.
And yeah, one of my friends, because you could invite friends, they brought weed and I smoked. And I remember like I just felt like I was going crazy. It was the worst experience ever. I just felt like it was bad. I was like on the field. I mean, even thinking about it, I'm just like, no. I should have stopped them.
Yeah, right.
Dad should have told me something. But yeah, I made a promise to God. I'm like, if I wake up and I'm sober, I'm sane,
I'm going to
I'll
not
never touch this again.
When did it graduate into like now you're actually taking weed constantly every single day?
Soon after, I joined a group of friends and I entered a relationship, a 5-6 year relationship. Well, at that point, I was 17, he was 22. He had a job. So getting weed was not a problem. Drinking was not a problem.
Yeah.
A lot of us, when it's accessible and it's in plenty, it creates an avenue also for you to just keep on keeping on. You know, before that, yes, I had smoked in the church camp, but first of all, I was on a student budget of pocket money.
Girl,
it's not like
nobody
And also, I didn't know where to get. I just would smoke in case if
you're at a party
if
and
somebody
someone has,
somebody has. That's the type of Soon after, I went to my first rehab. It was called Crossroads.
It was just marijuana at that point that you were
Yeah,
taking.
I was just taking marijuana, alcohol, and cigarettes. But in Crossroads, my resolve was marijuana is bad. It's illegal, but alcohol is legal and it's okay to drink. I mean, everyone drinks.
Yeah.
So I came out with the resolve to stop marijuana, but to continue drinking.
Yeah.
And I soon after went to Daystar. This was when I was about 20. I went to Daystar and this time I was drinking. But then I don't know. One drug sort of leads to the other. It's like, especially when you're drunk, your resolve, it's like you just can't remember what you were saying when you are sober.
That's the thing about drinking.
Yeah, it's like you start off so, you just can't be shaken. And then the more you drink, it's like, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I started to smoke weed again. But because of the tolerance I had built in the States, I mean, the weed now wasn't really even doing anything. Because my body had been so accustomed to it. I'd been smoking weed for 4 years, and my body had become so accustomed to it.
Yeah.
So I found that I would smoke a lot, but I wouldn't be getting high.
Yeah.
And then
Wow.
one day,
But what a far cry from that person in the field.
yeah, who was like
dying from
the
that
next
one.
day,
Yeah.
I was like,
Oh my. Mhm.
yeah, so I would smoke weed, but then I wouldn't get high. And one day my friend in the pre-university I was at told me that, oh, I have something that you can put in weed that makes the weed 10 times stronger. And me at that point I was thinking, yeah, obviously,
cool.
I mean, I need the high.
do it.
Yeah. What?
Let's do it.
Yeah, so I smoked the first time, and I remember the high was different. I mean, it was like times 10. But I've always been curious. I always wanted to push the limits. I'm like, that one I haven't tried before. So I would smoke. It's not like I even knew the source or anything. So I would smoke when he gave it to me. And then I remember we took a trip as a family to Masai Mara. I don't know if you remember that.
I remember.
Yeah, we went to Masai Mara. And in Masai Mara, after a few days, I felt like my body was just feeling so weird. I had, my head was hurting, my stomach was hurting. I felt chills, I felt overheating. So I was just wondering, like, what's wrong with my body? But then I could kind of pinpoint it to what I was using, but I didn't know what it was. So I decided, oh, let me Google, because you know Google is your best friend.
It is. I'm always telling people that.
So I decided to Google, and then it brought up heroin withdrawal symptoms. So I was like, oh my gosh, this has been heroin this whole time. But the high was so good that, yes, I mean I wasn't as, I was like, oh my gosh, it's heroin. But that didn't last very long because the high had already gripped me. So as soon as we came back, now I made it a point to find out first of all the source, so I didn't have to rely on this friend and constantly, do that. But the thing with heroin is, well, at least for me personally, I know other people who have smoked. It can be smoked or injected. I just chose to smoke because of, I can't imagine needles.
No.
Already in hospital.
Like, I like the drugs, but
yeah,
it's too much.
Yeah. So we would lace it in the weed, and
Is it expensive?
it's one,
How much?
it's 150 per sachet, and so because it's 100,
How big is the sachet?
it's usually comes in a math book paper, like it's folded a small square.
Okay.
Enough to smoke one time in a joint.
Oh, only
But you
once.
see,
Okay.
yeah, exactly. And your tolerance is built so much, so quickly that you need more to get the same high.
Yeah.
And so I used to take, at my max, I used to take about 6 sachets a day. Yeah. 5-6 sachets, which is like 5 times 150. I did not do
750.
Yeah, 750. Then
Is
now
that correct? I think so.
then now you have to factor in
Plus
the
buying the
weed,
weed.
and the cigarettes, because
Oh my gosh.
it's just a
Wow.
lot of money. And so I kept on doing that, but because I also didn't have a supply of funds, I found that I experienced the withdrawal symptoms too often, as in it took too long for me to sometimes be able to get my next dose fixed. So I found myself, I would, for a few months, I would smoke and stuff, and then when the withdrawal symptoms are too heavy for me, I would find the need to now just quit. So I found in the past 2017, 2018, I found myself going in and out of detox facilities. I went to rehab, and I'm just saying this for them, I went to rehab in 2017 for 3 months. I came out and decided to drink. And then it's always a downward. The worst thing about like addiction, when you sober up, and especially if you're not in Christ, the farther away you get from the bad experience, the less you remember it. So you don't
Remember how you got it.
yeah,
how easy
and
it
then
is
you
to-
begin to also only remember the good parts. Pants.
the good part of it.
Parts. So I mean, I would battle the withdrawal symptoms, and I'm like, never again, blah 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 blah. But after a while, after I drink and like I smoke a bit, then I would just
Which is not so bad.
yeah, it wasn't
I
so
mean-
bad. Yeah, so after I went to the last rehab last year, I went from about June to September. Yeah, June 7th to September 7th. And yeah, I can't remember.
True.
And also I find that in these other rehabs I really dealt with surface level issues. You know, I never went to root causes. I dealt with sort of a head knowledge about what is addiction, what does it do. I mean, I can give you definitions. You know, I could always tell you, okay, these are the steps they talk about in AA. These are, you know, but my heart, I still had so much, let's say, resentment, bitterness, and those things are a recipe for relapse, you know, because then if you don't know how to handle, or you find you're triggered by certain environments and certain emotions, then you really haven't been able to deal with the root cause.
And how is it going so far? Like, how are you feeling? Are you feeling like you're...
I always tell people, like, I've accomplished, or God has accomplished in me, way more than all the rehabs combined before, and that was 9 months, and this is 3 months. I just feel like I've been really able to know who I am and know whose I am. Also, I've been able to deal with root issues that I never even knew I struggled with, or things that I'm just like, wow, I struggle with this, or this and this and this.
It's just been, even me, like, because I've interacted with you when you were in the other rehabs, you seem different.
For true.
Yeah, you do. You seem different. Like,
Wow.
like in a way, I don't know how to describe it, but of course, all the other times when you've gone to rehab, we're like, okay, this is the time that she's going to now be whatever. But this one feels different to me. Feels so like,
One big thing that has been hard for me and is detaching myself from the people and the things. Like I said, even with the relationship, it's a struggle to be like, when you're with somebody for so long and then have to like completely cut
the relationship.
Even Barbara turned.
Even you turned.
I was like, who's there?
And
We are saying goodbye to the relationship.
video shoot is very cute.
I think that plays such a big role in your recovery. Knowing that I've decided, for me, this is what you come to, such a realization that this is my life. If I don't get it or try and make things right, that's why even in as much as there's challenges, you just remember at the end of the day, I read something the other day, when the desire for the future is at its peak, that's when you're really able to go forward. When you think about what's in store is greater than what I left behind,
That's when,
then as in change really happens, because you feel like I have too much in store to even jeopardize it. Like nothing is worth what's coming. When you're in addiction, it's I tend to isolate yourself a lot, because you don't want anybody to come and tell you what you're doing is wrong. I mean, you already know you're doing wrong. On top of that, having other people, you just don't have time. So, but I can already see God restoring relationships, like with you, sis. You're eating it too.
I don't know.
In terms of with dad, with everybody
in your life.
My relationships are being restored, and it's amazing.
Thank you so much for agreeing to come and talk to people and for agreeing to be on my channel.
I love your channel.
You love my channel?
I love your followers.
Oh, she loves y'all. She loves y'all.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Steve. Hi guys, so I am back home. I'm still in the car though. I'm back home from the rehab center, and I was going to do the outro when I left the rehab center. Like immediately I had left, but then I was still feeling a bit emotional after the video ended. The recording with my sister, we just sat there and talked for a while. The interesting thing is that even though she has been in addiction for a long time, it's not often that we actually sit and like talk about what it's been like for her. Like there are many experiences that she mentioned in the video which I was like, oh, I didn't know that, you know. And there are many things that she was alluding to, some of which I knew, some of of which I didn't know. But even afterwards, we just sat and we just talked, and just like she said, we're really in the process of like rebuilding our relationship. There was a point at which it had broken down completely. Like I don't know, maybe I should make a separate video about what it's like to be in a relationship with somebody who is in addiction, or like you know, a family member is in addiction, because that's like a whole different, like, you know, sphere altogether. But the whole point of this video was just to take you guys behind the scenes of what addiction is like. And my mom, I mean, it's something that we in our family, as my mom has mentioned, my dad struggled with alcoholism, my sister, it's been on and off for so many years, and it's been something that's been a part of our lives for a really long time. So when my mom started the center, we would go there frequently. In fact, it's before I was married to Zach, and we would go there all the time. Like for Christmas, we would go visit in the evenings. During the day, we were always there. So I mean, we've gotten to interact a lot with addicts. We've gotten to interact a lot with, not really with addicts, so I don't want to label them that, but with people who have struggled with addiction. And it's something that really, like, we are like very passionate about as a family. And I hope this has given you some sort of insight into what addiction is like. I get so many people, especially on my Instagram, when I mention about my mom's rehab center, I get many people saying, oh, I've struggled with this, or oh, I have a brother, I have a friend, I have, you know, my aunt or something like that who has struggled with addiction, and they're wondering, oh, what is this thing about? So I wanted to demystify a little bit about addiction and let you know that there are places you can actually take someone to, and there are places you can actually go and get help. And I hope that if you do decide to go in that path, like finding help for someone or finding help for yourself, that you would consider Teen Challenge. As you've heard, it's a faith-based kind of organization. So I really hope that that would encourage you to be able to feel at home there and feel like you can actually get real help. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Please let me know your thoughts and your comments and your feedback down below. If you have any questions about Teen Challenge, if you have any questions about addiction, any questions to me or to my family that you may want answered after having watched the video, please do let me know. I will be more than happy to answer them. Until next time, it's been Yummy Mommy and Yummy Family and Yummy Sister and Yummy Teen Challenge. See you in the next video. Bye.